Welcome all to our regularly scheduled monthly business meeting of the Gettysburg Planning Commission. It's November 17th, and I call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Our first item is to review and approve the agenda. We have a full Planning Commission here, as well as our alternate Jenny Dumont and our Planning Director and Borough Engineer. Does anyone wish to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
So John moves and Sarah seconds. Are there any questions about tonight's agenda? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we have an agenda. We'll now move to approve our October 20th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting minutes. We're joined by our borough solicitor, our Planning Commission solicitor. Are there any?
Don't elevate me yet.
Are there any changes to those minutes, or is there a motion to approve those minutes from last month?
I'll make a motion to approve the October 20th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so Sarah moves and John seconds. Are there any other questions or corrections to the minutes? Then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes unanimously. Is there any public comment to items on our agenda? Okay, so we have two items of tabled old business. The first is the Gettysburg Station property, 108 North Stratton Street. I've asked John Whitmore to explain when we first received this application, where it sits now, anything that's changed, and maybe, John, if you could specifically mention how the zoning hearing board and the incentives, where they are in the process as well. Like this proposal includes a zoning hearing board decision.
Yeah, so the project itself, to my knowledge, received really the beginning of approvals from the zoning hearing board in 2023. It had been discussed for some time before then, of course, but overall the project required the ability for additional height as it related to, I want to say it was incentives for the Gettysburg inner loop. There was a discussion regarding the way that the building would be steeped in terms of the massing. There was also discussion regarding the ability to utilize, I believe, internal parking. That one was challenged, though, I believe, because it was a parking structure itself. I'd have to go back to the minutes to get exact on all of this, but suffice it to say, the zoning hearing board provided the developer the ability to have a structure go up to 72 feet with an additional 12 feet for mechanicals. That's in accordance with the ROR zone's extended building height provisions for special exception. So they received the special exception. They proceeded to go through HARB approval. That's related to the design of the structure, specifically looking at the brick facade, the colors, the matching of materials. Gary Schaefer really led a very great investigative process during that, and establishing that as a new structure, it's going to respect the historic district. It's not going to pretend to mimic the historic features of the building. So there was a bit of discussion regarding brick color and some other minor details that really extended that, but they received approval from HARB. That was in the early part of this year. In April, that's when we had the first public review by the Planning Commission for the application for subdivision land development. That was accepted. That began the process where we have 90 days to review to either review it with an approval or denial, or if we don't say anything, then the applicant gets an approval. So we were able to discuss with the applicant the potential for an extension request as permitted by the municipality's planning code. They were amenable to that. There are a lot of moving pieces with this development program, especially as it relates to the capital stack, and that's something the developer has been very upfront about. Many of those components kind of interact with the approvals received from HARB and the ability to actually provide a development that pencils for them. There's been a lot of discussions with the developer and Rapid Transit regarding not only the moving of facilities, but just the operation of like the bathroom requirement from zoning hearing board. That's something that they're still finalizing a method to provide all the requirements from the zoning hearing board, and to a certain extent that may be causing delay. This is speculative on my part, though. So needless to say, they've been granted extensions up until this point. At this time, staff is asking for another 2-month extension. Let me just pull it up. We would be looking, have I gone the right way? We'd be looking for a January 19th, 2026 review of the project. This was as previously stated to the commission. Once we get to a year, then we'll have a discussion about either resubmitting or a firm plan on what the expectation is for the completion of the plan. We are running up against changes that would be occurring with material availability, material cost over a period of a year, let alone now getting close to 2 years for the HARB approval. So it's something just to be cognizant about. Their ability to reapply would still be there. And it's something we're working with the developer to try to facilitate this development program. Most recent information we received from the developer related to right-of-way abandonment, and it was just a preliminary exercise in establishing the Foth Alley meets and bounds. But that's something, there's going to be some additional things happening from the borough's side to facilitate this subdivision plan as well, which, in all honesty, may extend past January, but we're really trying to work with the developer here to get this in for review in early winter, so it's in front of you in January as a finalized product, not just a continuation of draft plan ideas. So very long-winded way of saying, let's get you more information.
That's great. No, I appreciate it. Before I see if there are any planning commission comments or comments from Chad, I guess what would you say is different or similar, and how much of a degree in difference or similarity is where things are from when we first received this in April, and then from when we last extended or asked for an extension in when was it?
We've had 2 extensions.
Yeah, so 2 extensions. I'm trying to see, is this the same plan that's being carried forward, or is it a plan in difference in degree or kind from what we've seen?
I would say it's still proportionally the same type of development. A lot of the things are working around the margins to increase the ability for landscaping, as that's one of the waiver modification requests. And then they run into their capital stack includes public funds from the federal government, so that causes some problems nowadays. And one of the issue associated with that is, I mean, they still haven't even necessarily, I don't think they've begun the environmental review process on this project. So it's one of those that we're working with them. Yeah, that's where we are though right now.
Do you want to say anything, John?
Sure. So, and I think John summarized it well. We haven't received a revised plan yet. So the only plan that was officially submitted to the borough is the one that you guys have seen. Mm-hmm. So there hasn't been an official or formal resubmittal yet. So nothing's changed officially. We do know that they have put forth efforts to. There was a lot of discussion. You can remember, Marty, we've had that where their cars were parking along the bike trail, and we were worried about them hanging over top of the bike trail. They did make efforts to put a green strip in there with trees, satisfy the landscaping requirements, and to separate the bike trail from the parking. So that's probably going to be the most significant change that you'll notice with the plan. Aside from that, the building locations, almost everything else is going to be exactly the same as what you see. I think the bigger question at hand is the fact that, it has been, I'll call it stale or stagnant for months after months, and we just haven't had anything. So that's why we're saying, in January, we're going to have to make this decision. Do we just keep this on our agenda indefinitely, or do we take it off and have them resubmit whenever they're ready to resubmit? I do know they are making some progress with the traffic transportation. They're still working on getting PennDOT's approval for that. That's ultimately they'll need PennDOT's approval before we can give our approval. So I do know that they are still working on some things on that end, and like John said, they have some other irons in the fire, some things that they got to take care of. But at this point, there still hasn't been anything new or different submitted to us. So we're just kind of playing the waiting game.
And do you imagine December anything happening, or when you ask for January, it's like probably January is when we'll see something again?
Well, the reason we're asking for January 20th, it said 19th, or that was a mistake. But the reason being, there's a tendency in construction fields, especially design fields, once you hit the Christmas holidays, there's going to be a slowdown. I'm concerned that even if we do get something in December, getting it to a point where it would be ready for planning commission review by providing an additional month, that would gives us a little bit of wiggle room from a staffing issue side. The applicant's been pretty consistent for the past few months, saying they're going to have this plan ready in December. So we'll see. I'm confident that we'll be able to provide you with a better update, though, in December.
And maybe one thing to add to that is, I don't think we should be under the impression that if they do get a revised plan in December, that all of the comments are going to be addressed.
Sure.
Yeah.
There was a significant amount of comments, right? So in January, it's not like this thing's going to be approved. It would be most likely be tabled again because there's still going to be some comments that they're going to be going through.
And not having seen the plan or any conversations relative to it, it doesn't seem to me like it would be very productive for you to give a 30-day extension effectively. And you're going to do that multiple times. It's
Or
better-
you mean to ask for a 30-day?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And remind me, what are the advantages of just keeping this tabled instead of, we actually haven't talked to them this whole time or seen if we haven't had an interaction with them as far as what kinds of changes they're making. So is it, if we stop having this tabled, does that mean you stop having conversations with them? Because you seem to continue having conversations with them no matter what. So I'm just not sure the advantage of us continuing to table it when it may be a different plan, it may continue to be not submitted, so why are we just tabling it indefinitely?
It is, from the applicant's perspective, a method to have the borough take action on the subdivision. So to a certain extent, this is
Right.
this is their process. They're the ones that are ultimately in control of at least providing the information to the planning commission. We're not at a point where staff is recommending denial due to administrative review. If that were to occur, we would have the applicant here to just provide a discussion. And that's something that, if this continues until April, yes, we're going to have that discussion.
So there's nothing tonight that would allow us to approve, of course, but you're suggesting there's nothing enough to
Right.
warrant denial.
The applicant has requested an extension.
Okay. So now, Planning Commission, there's a request from staff to extend and make a motion until January 20th, 2026. Does anyone have any questions, or is there a motion?
I have one question regarding rapid transit. There's just so many moving parts to this site, and I'm sort of in the dark as to how this works. How does that, do they sell the property to Rapid Transit, or do they maintain ownership and just have them rent from them? Does it matter even? Or, there's a bathroom there?
So the bathroom's been the biggest problem.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want it. I think that's a fair statement, that there's the liability and maintenance that goes into that type of public facility is something that a transit agency is not necessarily fond of having to do, especially when it's not something they requested. It's something we would provide. I guess I'm trying to think. I'm not sure how they're going to do the specific transfer. That's not necessarily been involved with the subdivision process to date. That could be a lease agreement. It could be a direct sale. I mean, it's something that has to happen, so it's going to be probably a condition for approval, and associated on the plan set that would be what's going to happen to this parcel, some kind of notation.
Since it's an improvement required by ordinance, the borough would have the ability through the developer's agreement process to write that into the developer's agreement and potentially even add that to the requirements for as a common improvement as defined by the MPC, so you could potentially have financial security put towards that effect to make sure that it actually happens. But how it happens is kind of out of our purview. That's between the developer and Rapid Transit. It's just that it happens. The borough would maybe want to make sure that it has something either, like I said, in the developer's agreement and or in financial security. And we'll have to go through that whole process. Once this thing gets close to being approved by the Planning Commission, one of the requirements will have to be the developer's going to have to post public improvement security, financial security, and that will have to get approved by the Borough Council.
I can't remember if we talked about this before, but on the bathroom thing, and I don't, I'm not really thrilled about the idea of moving the transit center in the first place, but I think the bathroom component, it's also important to keep a bathroom on Carlisle rather than having it over on Stratton. So did we discuss, would the discussion include at least keeping a public bathroom in their site on Carlisle so it's publicly accessible rather than tying it to the location of the transit center itself?
I don't think we can say.
I don't know that they have anything incorporated. I think our ordinance allowed for the additional height, and it asked for them to move it.
Okay.
So now that's it would be something against our ordinance.
Great, yeah.
That would have been an exaction that the zoning hearing board would have probably been able to apply with the special exception approval, but did not do so.
Okay, thanks.
I'm trying to just, so what we know, what application is in front of us that we are asking to be extended? It's the April submission, correct? April 21st?
That's correct.
Okay. So on that submission, there were a number of waivers that were requested, which are just still sitting there.
Yes.
That we'll return to at some point. And they were mostly related to landscaping.
Unless they have found a way to facilitate the requirements of the ordinance.
So, but you know of no movement on that. That's still probably sitting.
There's going to be a few modifications and waivers with the parking building. I believe they were trying to get the planting numbers up. Where we are with that, we'll have a better idea once we see revised plans.
So just so the Planning Commission knows, I'm looking at it, there were 5 waiver requests, but that's just for information. On the incentives, can you remind us, I'm trying to find where on the plan they stipulated exactly what incentives they were taking advantage of?
Without having the plan directly in front of me, I'm not quite sure. That would be something we would generally provide in the notation section, either on page 1 or usually near the end.
Okay. Because there was some discrepancy on whether they were able to meet that. And I'm sure those were in the notes that you provided them, when you responded.
From what I can remember, it was for the moving of the transit center, and it was for the Gettysburg Inner Loop Trail.
Okay.
And it was not for the parking garage because that
so
was
those
not,
two, and that's why this question of the bathrooms and all of that
Exactly.
still keeps coming up.
exactly.
Okay.
You got it.
All right. Any further comment from Planning Commission, or is there a motion?
I'll move to extend our review of the Gettysburg Station until January 20th, 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so.
And you're really accepting their request to grant you an extension, just to be clear.
And that is until the date, January 20th, 2026. Moved by Marty, seconded by John. Sorry, Nick. Are there any further questions or comments about this? Okay, then all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes unanimously. 351 East Water Street.
So as you recall, this is an application for housing development. It was initially proposed as two townhome developments, roughly 5 units apiece, each with individual access coming off of East Water Street with very deep backyards. In speaking with the development team, they've envisioned a different scenario, utilizing the space a little more conducively to the streetscape enhancement overlay district. They have not, however, provided updated plans. We will be seeking a request from them in December for an extension, or if it makes sense, a resubmittal, as it's probable that this will be a substantial change. They're looking, at least what was initially discussed, was reorienting the structures towards a common drive, kind of like I forget the name of that type of development style, a plaza type of development. Additional units and a comparable turnaround for emergency service vehicles closer towards the distillery. The development pattern would then therefore not be as intrusive to the inner loop, and it would also meet the requirements for new curb cuts, as they're going to be also modifying the access to the industrial building. So.
And Adam, do we need a motion to table?
You're still within 90 days on
Yeah.
that? Yeah, you're fine.
Okay,
Just
so then we can just
Yeah.
note this, but what questions or comments do you have? Or Chad, do you have something further?
John nailed it.
Okay.
We're just waiting for them.
Planning Commission, any questions for the help of this project? Okay, then we'll move on. New business, 26 East High Street.
So, as I noted it last month, this is a pretty easy ministerial action, but there are some unique quirks in the Commonwealth. The municipality's planning code allows for the county to have a 30-day comment window. As such, that window does not end until roughly the 20th of this month. So we anticipate either having comments in the affirmative, some method of affirmative, or no comments, but with the recommendation most likely to approve occurring in December.
Chad?
So, in front of you, you do have a comment letter from me on this, so we can probably just hit these real quick, even though the applicant's not here. He did get a copy of this letter. Most of what's on my letter is administrative in nature. The first one is just the north arrow. Second one is the right-of-way needs to be labeled for the alley in the back. There is this line in the middle that's getting changed from the front to the back of the lot, so they'll need to have some setbacks shown on that line. There's a note on the plan. This is general comment number 1. There's a note on the plan that talks about the soil lines, but they don't exist on the plan. It doesn't really matter. We don't need soils on the plan, but then they should just eliminate the note. Note number 7 in a general note says lots number 1 and 3. It should say 1 and 1A. In the legend, they have a typo for the right-of-way line that just needs to be fixed. And there's a couple of words overlapping. I think it was curb and something else that overlaps, and you can't read them on a plan. So they just need to clean that typo up. So again, largely administrative in nature. All of these things are just kind of typo type things. So again, the applicant has a copy of my letter. They'll get these things cleaned up, address any comments that the county has. This is a really simple little plan. So it's not a lot to write home about.
Thank you, Chad. So should we have a motion to accept this plan for review?
It was accepted at the last meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. So then accept the plan, or with conditions upon this?
You can't. You're not supposed to make in action until you receive the county's
County's
comments.
Okay.
Which
then-
are purely advisory, but you gotta wait for them.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments about this plan? It doesn't seem like we need any motion then.
Correct.
Any questions about? Okay. As far as announcements, Borough Council will meet next on Monday, December 8th. I think, is that really 6 PM?
Nope, it's 7 PM.
Okay, 7 PM. And our next, wait, no, that's Borough Council. So they are meeting at 7.
Yes.
All right. So Borough Council will meet on the zoning ordinance Monday, December 8th at 7 PM if all would like to be there. And our next meeting as a planning commission is Monday, December 15th at 7 PM. Are there additional comments from planning commission members, starting with Jenny, Nick, Sarah, John, Marty? Okay. Is there additional public comment? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
I second.
Marty moves and John seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, and our meeting is adjourned at 7:26 PM.